you've undertaken the role of a project manager in the past. You now are the principal at Level Architecture and Interiors. So what I want to get into is a project manager is essentially often the career progression for a lot of the architects. But that's, again, a skill set that you aren't trained for, probably something you learn only on the job. Could you sketch out for me what you think is probably what makes a good project manager, given you've kind of done that and now you've made your way to the principal?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the biggest things is that, myself as a project manager, you as a project manager, somebody on our team, somebody else, everybody really, even though the goal of the project manager is the same, maybe the job description is very similar, the way that everybody gets to that and either succeeds at that or struggles at that oftentimes comes down to their personality and the things that they either struggle with or excel at in their own, kind of existence. And so recognizing the things in myself, if I want to use me as an example, recognizing the things that I feel like I'm good at and I can do quickly, the things that I'm good at but take me more time, the things that I can do but I don't like, and then the things that I don't like and I'm not good at. And so there are these models that you can do. So you can do any number of personality testing. So you learn about yourself, but also how you coordinate with other people. And so your communication style as a project manager is one of the biggest things. Learning about how you organize your day-to-day processes and understand the system that you're working in. That's a really big piece of it. And then understanding kind of the role that the project manager kind of fills on a project. I think if you can combine those three and really focus on, kind of understanding what the specific project goals and sort of rules are, if that's not your job as the project manager to, understand it, making sure as the project manager, you're asking that question. Oftentimes the best project managers are the ones that are the most relentless. They just will not let something go. If you have 5 questions that need to be answered by the end of the meeting, and you can only seem to get 4 questions answered, literally you have to be the one that's like, we are not leaving this room until I get the 5th answer. Or if we just can't answer it now, when can we answer it with a date and who is going to answer it? And then the best project managers are the ones that 2 days later, when they haven't heard from you and it was due the day before, then they follow up. So I would not claim to be the world's best project manager, but I think one of the things that happens over time is that in the beginning, it has to be much more kind of by the book, much more linear. But then after you've gone through several project cycles, meaning start to finish, find out your report card at the end, how well did it go? How well were the documents performed? How well was CA? And then you get to do it again. And then you get to learn and go through the cycle again. And after you've gone through that cycle 4 or 5 times, which this is one of the things that is always maybe one of the hardest to explain, is that in some ways, there's no shortcut to just actual project experience. And so while it is amazing to kind of progress through projects, through job titles, through experiences, project sizes as coming out of school to wherever somebody is. That's one of the things that there is no substitute for that we found in terms of it just takes months. It can take years sometimes to get that extra 10%. That is the thing that I think, you're kind of asking about. So I think as you get more experience and you have begun to recognize the things that are, we definitely have to do this. These are the kind of meeting minutes I need to take. This is an important milestone in the project to make sure we get this right. This is the due diligence and prep we need to do before we have that kickoff team meeting. So it's one of those things where it's easier to go with the flow and kind of make decisions that might not be so linear and like process oriented the later you get in your career. Mm-hmm. That can also be something to be reminded of in terms of that may be okay for you as a project manager, but if you have other teams and you have other processes in a company, that if you've got one project manager, like if I'm just going off book completely, but nobody else is, it begins to create a dynamic in the firm that can be unproductive. Let's just say it like that. So I would say, as a project manager, realizing your strengths, understanding your communication style, but then making sure that everybody is kind of on the same playing field. That's kind of the keys to success. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we learn a lot more from some of our mistakes than we do from the successes. So that's benefited me on the project management side.
Thank you, James, for sharing that. In fact, I think the way you started off was very fascinating in terms of kind of identifying your personality type and playing up to your strengths and weaknesses. I want to kind of press on that. If you could, like, it's interesting to me. So, did you actually do that for yourself? And if you did, could you give me an example as to, say, something that you identified was a weakness? Was there a tool that you were there to play up to that?
So, gosh, I wish my partner Adam is the one that is like he's the guru with all those things. So I was also benefiting from knowing myself and knowing that I'm somebody that needs a partner. So there's two principles at level, and having that complementary skill set at that level is tremendous at any level, but it's been helpful to me. So we had a chance to do several of them. I think the most useful bits of information that we got was communication style. And number one from that, it's not just how you communicate, it's how people communicate with you. And so the best tests, and I don't want to recommend any certain one because I think it's different for every company and size, but the best tests are the one that kind of complete that 360 of, you get a chance to know what James is like when he's in a good place. And then you also can understand what James is like under stress. So the personality test that measures you when you're comfortable in a room taking these questions is great. But there's also that same test should give you the data that can help your team at least be aware of symptoms of, oh, wow, James isn't communicating the same way he does. He's dropping down to this like alternate personality kind of type. And this is how I can recognize that he's in a stress state. And when he's in that stress state, this is then how I communicate with him. And so if you have a team that's made up of people that, number one, are just, now they understand that there might be like more than 4 styles of people and communication, and everybody's got pluses and minuses. Some people are better, kind of more individual. Some people thrive in groups, but understand how you can have that. There's one of them is like the bird types. They make it really easy for you to understand with bird types. There's actually a more scientific name, but if you've got the owls that are really the like studious, like very organized kind of list, and then you've got your parrot, which is like the really outgoing, like lots of social interaction. It helps those two people, kind of communicate and understand each other and understand the strengths. I think what that led to was just more open conversation about things that, while I would say we had a pretty good culture before, this just like blew the doors off of that. So taking the time to get to know people and then talking about it, you finally get to the point where it's kind of fun. And, even if somebody's stressed out, you can kind of make light of it in a supportive way. Or if everybody's doing great, which can happen too, you can kind of celebrate that too. So as a project manager, one of the best things about that is that now you know how to relate to other people on that project team. Now you know how to talk to that client. That's a total like eagle, owl. They come across as super direct. And if you're like me, I lead with like a dove kind of energy, which is really inclusive, making sure everybody feels heard. Sometimes, feelings can get hurt without anybody meaning for feelings to get hurt. But once you understand those styles and you can kind of directly talk with them, it's amazing. I mean, you know how to talk to the construction team, you know how to talk to the engineers, the client, it's a really wonderful thing, honestly, for life, because I think there's a lot of people walking around that may just have, just a little bit of miscommunication, and everything other than that is really fine. So I think that's a great thing. I would highly recommend.